Yo, what's up NBA fans? It's Mike here, and let me tell you, it is so freaking nice to have actual NBA content to talk about. I've been saying it all week, but it remains true, okay? It is so freaking nice for the offseason to really be, or I guess you might call it the preseason, to really be in full swing right now, with trades going on, free agency signings, the draft has happened, so people are talking about rookies. It is so freaking nice, dude. Okay, I have been dying for this all fall, all the end of summer, alright, ever since the finals ended, basically. Look, I eat, breathe, live basketball, just obsessed, and I am so happy to have it back. So, today we're going to be talking about really all the big free agency signings that have happened over this weekend, and just some brief thoughts on them. For the most part, there hasn't been too many major ones. There's a couple of them, and I'll probably spend a little bit longer on them, but I'm going to try my best, fingers crossed, to keep this video kind of brief, because the first time I did this, I realized I spent 3 minutes just talking about one signing, which is the first one we're going to go over, and I was like, shit, this is not what I'm trying to do. So, getting right into it, alright? Enough intro, getting right into it. The thing that I was spending forever talking about in my first recording of this video was Gordon Hayward signing. Gordon Hayward has signed with the Charlotte Hornets for $30 million per year for the next 4 seasons. Now, I don't know how high some of you are on Gordon Hayward. I thought Celtics fans were the highest on him, but then it turns out for the most part they're not too unhappy that he left. So, I don't know. I mean, on one hand, look, Gordon Hayward's a solid player, but I don't think he's worth $30 million a year, and I definitely don't think he's worth $30 million a year, considering how injury-prone he is. And I know most of Gordon Hayward's injuries have been, very fluky injuries, but still, the man's gotten hurt 3 or 4 times, and pretty big injuries at that, while he's been on the Celtics, and I think it's fair to call him injury-prone at this point, even if the injuries have seemed pretty random. So, I don't know, that just seems like a lot of money, but hey, the Hornets are pretty incompetent, maybe not as much as the Pistons, but they don't really seem to have anything to do for the next couple years besides compete for the 10th seed. So, you know what, why not? Why not put Gordon Hayward in there to take shots from LaMelo Ball, who you just drafted? I'm sure that's going to go great. Hopefully he and Terry Rozier get along. Anyway, also with the Gordon Hayward trade, I am very happy about it, even if it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because there was originally talks for the Boston Celtics to do a sign-and-trade with him for Miles Turner, and that would have been bad, okay? That would have improved the Pacers, and it definitely would have improved the Celtics, alright? And that would not have been good for me as a Sixers fan, so very happy that didn't happen. Anyway, getting to the next thing, the Miami Heat are one of the biggest free agency winners this offseason, in my opinion. Maybe not as much as the Sixers, although they won more with trades. But Miami Heat have done absolutely amazing, okay? They freaking re-signed Goran Dragic for a 2-year deal, and the second year is a... What am I trying to say here? The second year is a team option, so they can feel free to let him go. They also signed... I'm trying to think, who did they sign? Not sure if it wasn't Jay Crowder, because he went to the Suns, I believe. They re-signed somebody else who was very solid and very helpful for their team, and that was a good deal. Give me 1 second to figure out who this is, because it's going to bother me if I don't. Okay, so apparently I was thinking of Myers Leonard, who is not a big signing for the Heat. I guess I was just thinking of how Jay Crowder left and signed with the Suns, which is pretty huge for them. So yeah, Myers Leonard, solid enough player, definitely no Jay Crowder though, but the Heat are looking good. They also signed Avery Bradley, which is another very good deal for them. Backup guard, pretty solid player. Dwight Howard coming to the Sixers was the funniest signing of the offseason because he said he was going to go back to the Lakers, deleted that tweet, and then signed with the Sixers, which was freaking hilarious. But as a Sixers fan, I love that we signed him for a minimum. Dude was definitely worth an MLE after how he played last season, so to get him for a minimum contract is huge. Very good backup center, especially at that price. I'm very happy with that. Toronto Raptors, they re-signed Fred VanVleet. Good for them. It was some big money, but at the same time, having a core of Siakam, VanVleet, and OG Anunoby for the future, that's pretty dang impressive, alright? Pretty dang good. Detroit Pistons, You should have seen my last video if you haven't already. They signed 1 million big men. Their team is ridiculous right now. I don't know what the hell they're doing. Los Angeles Lakers, they got Wesley Matthews, who is basically nobody, and they also got Montrezl Harrell from the Los Angeles Clippers, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because I would just think when you have LeBron James and Anthony Davis, your goal is to surround them with two things: perimeter defense and shooting. Montrezl Harrell does not provide either of those things. But I guess the idea is you quote-unquote play Montrezl Harrell at center, and you play Anthony Davis at power forward, even though both of them should be playing each other's positions. And that way you make Anthony Davis feel better, because he's a soft bitch who doesn't want to play center with the big boys, because he's afraid of getting hurt in the post. Anyway, Utah Jazz, they got Derek Favors back, which doesn't make any sense to me, considering how bad of a fit he was with Gobert before, but okay, I guess. The Jazz also re-signed Jordan Clarkson to a pretty large contract, but I think it was good. He was probably their best bench player last season, and that's a very good deal for them. And they extended Donovan Mitchell for a massive, something like $190 million for 5 years. Absolutely massive contract, but makes absolute sense. It's good for them to have locked down Donovan Mitchell. That's great for them. The Hawks have done a ton of crap. They got Danilo Gallinari for several years. They got Chris Dunn, and I believe they got Rajon Rondo as their backup point guard. So they're looking fantastic, okay? On top of their pretty good draft selections, I think the Hawks are really set to make a big trade sometime soon, honestly, because they've got too many starting caliber players at this point, too many young guys who need to develop. I've seen rumors that maybe they trade John Collins, maybe they trade who's their center they got from the Rockets? Clint Capella, maybe they trade him, and that way they can let Okongwu start. I don't know what they're going to do, but they have a lot of options, and I would say the Hawks are a lock for the 8th seed in the East. Honestly, I would be very surprised at this point if they do not make the playoffs, because they're looking like a very good team. Let's see, the Wizards kept Davis Bertans. Really doesn't mean much in my opinion. The dude's a very good player, but he got a big contract, and now he's on the Wizards, who are having a ton of issues now that John Wall wants to be traded. So, really doesn't mean that much in the big scheme of things. Joe Harris stayed with the Nets. Again, doesn't mean too much. A very solid player, but I've said before, I don't believe in the Nets as contenders. I don't think they have the depth or the defense, and Joe Harris doesn't necessarily help either of those things, since I assume he would be starting. So, yeah, I don't believe in the Brooklyn Nets. Houston Rockets got Christian Wood. Very good future piece for them. I honestly wish they just kept, at this point, considering they may not trade James Harden, I would have been interested to see another season of them running that lineup with just Christian Wood at center, and if they kept Robert Covington. But, oh well, I guess we're going to see their rebuild. Very curious to see what happens with that. The Clippers re-signed Marcus Morris. Okay, solid enough player, but I wouldn't think that would be... The Clippers need to focus on a point guard. So if you need to let Marcus Morris walk, I suppose they can use him as a trade asset for a better point guard somewhere. I don't know what they're going to do. But they definitely need a guard. Dwight Howard came to the Sixers, Vanfleet, Hayward. The Suns are looking really good. Now they have Jay Crowder. Again, like the Hawks, pretty much a shoe-in for the playoffs at this point. I would be, excluding some kind of crazy injuries, I would be shocked if the Suns don't make the playoffs, because their team is looking really, really good right now. The Nuggets got Paul Millsap, the Blazers got Melo. Decent signings, but neither of them are huge. The Celtics got freaking Tristan Thompson, which I just think is hilarious. Dude's not that good, so I don't think that helps the Celtics very much. The Lakers re-signed KCP to a massive contract, or at least massive considering the dude's a meme, $40 million for 3 years. Solid enough, the dude's a solid enough 3-and-D role player, but I probably wouldn't have paid him that much. But I guess they're just trying to keep the chemistry since they are attempting to repeat. And last but not least that I will be talking about today, unless I think of something else in the next 5 seconds, the Los Angeles Clippers signed Serge Ibaka to replace Montrezl Harrell. Serge Ibaka is a fantastic signing for them. Don't get me wrong, very good signing for them. However, again, they need a guard. So I don't know if they're going to try and trade Morris and some pieces for a guard, or what they're going to do. But unless the Clippers get a legitimate playmaking point guard, because we saw last season Pat Bev and Lou Williams, they're not it, guys. They are not it. They need a legit playmaker on their team at the guard position. Unless they get that, I cannot take them over the Lakers to win the title next season. I absolutely can't. So I don't know if they're going to make a trade or what, but they really, really need a guard. So yeah, that's pretty much it for free agency this weekend. I'm sure there's a couple smaller signings I missed, but that's just what I'm looking at this list, and that does seem to be most of the big ones that I can think of, at least off the top of my head. If there's a big one I missed, let me know in the comments. And tell me what you guys think. Who do you think, how much do you think this changes up the NBA? Are there teams that are getting into the playoffs now because of these? Are there teams that are becoming contenders because of these? Let me know what you guys think. Like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Really appreciate that. And keep checking out my content. Thank you.